This is News at 8.
Thank you for making time for the bulletin. Coming up, Chinese government appeals for more compassionate treatment of its nationals found engaged in illegal mining. Meanwhile, the Ghana Immigration Service says some 269 foreigners have so far been repatriated in the ongoing crackdown on galamsey activities by the Inter-Ministerial Task Force. Pharmacists suspend 2-month-old strike but remain hopeful their issues with migration onto the single spine salary structure will be addressed. Parliament adopts amendment to $3 billion loan with Chinese Development Bank after correction of certain defects. And tuberculosis patients denied much needed treatment for the past 2 weeks after the Makula No. 2 market may get help soon following the intervention by the Deputy Regional Minister. We also have sports, showbiz and international news coming up.
News at 8 with Israel Lai.
In our very first story, the Chinese ambassador Gong Jianzhong has appealed to the Inter-Ministerial Galamsey Task Force to be compassionate towards his fellow countrymen found engaged in illegal mining. Addressing a news conference in Accra, the ambassador catalogued complaints about the harassment meted out to Chinese nationals who he says are sometimes robbed in such raids. He however intimated the Chinese government is generally in agreement with the enforcement of the law.
The Chinese ambassador to Ghana, Gong Jianzhong, expressed worry about the engagement of Chinese nationals in illegal mining in the country and noted, though the situation would not affect Ghana-China relations, some form of disharmony has been created.
We do not hope that this issue will affect the image of the Chinese in Africa. And I believe that through joint efforts, we will do our best to keep and to develop the friendship between China and African countries, the friendship between the Chinese and African peoples.
According to him, the embassy does not have data on the number of Chinese nationals in the country, since most had entered the country illegally. This, he noted, is affecting the ability of the embassy to track down on Chinese personnel engaged in illegal mining activities, and appealed to government to attach a human face to their operations to rid the country of the illegal miners.
We have asked the Ghanaian government to deal with the problem in especially carrying out the law enforcement operations in a mild, in a humane manner, so that the life and property safety of the Chinese nationals could be protected, and also facilitations could be given to the Chinese nationals who are willing to go back to China.
As a measure to educate Chinese nationals on the country's mining laws, the embassy has converted the 2006 mining law into Chinese, and this has been posted on the website of the embassy to serve as a guide to prospective Chinese businessmen. Meanwhile, a Chinese delegation led by the Deputy Director General of Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Q Zhenjing, is said to have held bilateral talks with Vice President Pauw on the situation.
We have asked the Ghanaian government to protect the Chinese nationals, because there are reports of some robberies, some attacks against the Chinese nationals as well. And also we have asked the Ghanaian government that is, we need to cooperate closely together so as to solve the issue at the source, at the root. And for all those issues, we have got a very favorable responses from the Ghanaian government.
Officials have also indicated that all 202 Chinese nationals who opted for voluntary repatriation have paid the mandated 2,000 Ghana cedis and have already left the country.
Well, the Ghana Immigration Service has so far repatriated 269 foreigners as a result of the current clampdown against illegal mining by the Anti-Galamsey Inter-Ministerial Task Force. They include 218 Chinese and 51 Nigerians.
According to the Ghana Immigration Service, the repatriations were conducted in collaboration and with support of the embassies of China and Niger. In the case of the Nigerians, the embassy provided a bus which conveyed the deportees to Niamey, whilst the Chinese were assisted in some cases with the procurement of tickets by the embassy. The GIS says it continues to have a good working relationship with foreign missions in Ghana and would advise foreigners residing in the country to register or relate with their respective embassies for information on issues concerning investment and immigration in Ghana. The Nigerian ambassador to Ghana, Hajo Abdul Momin, spoke on the issue.
We are working as a team since we catch them. We have been sharing information and ideas to find a good way to settle this issue. And frankly, I have been very happy the way Ghanaian immigration. I hope also my people who are going with you will take care of them as if they are part of your family.
In other news, government says it is considering reviewing the legislation that permits the waiver of taxes for some companies to stem its abuse. It follows recent concern in Parliament about the rate at which the House is presented with such requests, some of which the MP say are undeserved. Briefing journalists at the Flagstaff House on President Mahamas' UK trip, Deputy Information Minister and Media Relations Minister Felix Kwachofosu said government is also ready to be held accountable for its management of Ghana's oil revenue. Right, before we get to that, we're going on to this. The Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association says it has called off its strike. It follows a meeting with its members. We have on the line now Raymond Tete. He's a former gospel president and current executive. Good evening to you, Mr. Raymond Tete.
Good evening.
Right, so what prompted this particular action? Why now?
Now because the general public has been pleading, our patients, friends, family, and all well-meaning Ghanaians. Coupled with that, the sector minister, together with the chairman of the subcommittee of cabinet who are working on our grievances, have all pleaded along the way that it's time we call off the strike. And so we approached our national delegates with these concerns. And they have the view that it's time we suspend the strike.
All right. How are you now seeking to resolve whatever grievances you had?
Well, we've met the committee and we've presented our evidences to them. And we think it's quite clear that we've not been treated well. And so we are of the belief that they'll do the right thing. We are convinced they will do the right thing.
I suspect it's more to do with your strike becoming really ineffective now.
Well, if anything at all, it's rather biting.
Seriously?
Very well. Okay. But that is not the issue. We are not out here to weigh the effect of our strike action. We had an issue. And for 2 years, we have followed due process. Sadly, the institution of state is refusing to comply. So, I mean, we are only on strike because the wrong thing is being done by an institution of state. So it's not about the weight of our strike action.
All right, thank you very much. You heard Raymond Tete. He's a former gospel president and current executive. In other news, the government says it is considering reviewing the legislation that permits the waiver of taxes for some companies to stem its abuse. It follows recent concern in Parliament about the rate at which the House is presented with such requests, some of which the MPs say are undeserved. Briefing journalists at the Flagstaff House on President Mahamas' UK trip, Deputy Information and Media Relations Minister Felix Kwatue-Fosu said government is also ready to be held accountable for its management of Ghana's oil revenue.
The Deputy Minister highlighted areas of importance to government as far as the discussions were concerned.
One of the most significant outcomes of the various discussions held during His Excellency the President's visit was the issue of a transparent management of our oil revenue. Certain concerns and fears were expressed about our own ability to manage it in a manner that is beneficial to our people. You do recall that the government quickly put in place the requisite legislation by way of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, which regulates how the oil revenue is managed. The government is committed to deepening this transparency in accordance with the promise that we made in the 2012 elections to offer transparent and accountable governance. And we encourage further public scrutiny. A second major development focus on how Accra can be transformed into an international financial hub.
He said government is looking forward to setting out the modalities which would eventually lead to the establishment of Accra as a financial hub as discussed.
You need laws that govern how transactions are carried out. You need to harmonize your business registration processes. You need to fast track some of the processes through which transactions can be carried out. But they happen to have taken the lead in terms of developing this framework. We are an emerging lower middle income country, and certainly we do have challenges and some shortcomings as far as this regulatory environment is concerned. So they would be extending to us advice and expertise that would enable us to establish this framework, which would then attract the sort of investment that I'm talking about.
Mr. Ofosu-Kwakye also noted that government intends to move from mere indulgence in the applause and recognition from the international community to leveraging the country's image abroad to make it a better place.
President John Mahamas criticized world perception about Africa and called for a reorientation within a balanced context. The president, who was delivering a lecture at Chatham House in London on Ghana's progress, economic change and regional influence, called for a halt in the depiction of Africa as a dark continent in the patronage by international media donors and aid organizations.
By changing the way in which we frame our discussions about Africa, we also change the unrealistic expectations of overnight success and the discouraging notion of failure when those expectations are not immediately met.
The lecture was to address Ghana's issues on a world stage and for the president to clarify misconceptions that may have been held by sections of the international community. President Mahama indicated that progress is relative.
It happens in minor but consistent increments. It more often than not goes unnoticed, and then finally one day, when enough ground has been gained, it is announced, bam, and labeled a success. Until then, and even after then, we continue to face forward. We continue to take step after painstaking step. We continue to make progress in all areas of our citizens' lives so that Ghana can live up to the full promise of its vast potential. This is the nature of progress and the reward for patience that it demands.
He answered questions on a broad spectrum of issues, including Ghana's choice of political and financial alliances, the cause of labor unrest Ghana has witnessed this year, and international trade following clampdown on foreigners engaged in some businesses in Ghana.
The issue about traders in markets. We have a law that says that retail trade in markets is reserved for Ghanaians. We're facing the same problem in mining. A lot of foreigners have invaded the mining sector. And again, the law says that small-scale mining is reserved for Ghanaians. And so as president, I have a duty to enforce the law. But let me say that we are passing a new investment promotion center act. And so I hope that in passing the new investment promotion center act, it will deal with these issues.
Touching on the disputed maritime boundary between Ghana and Ivory Coast, the president said boundaries commissions on both sides have been set to legitimately resolve the issue. The lecture was open to journalists, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders in the United Kingdom. Some of them spoke to Joy News.
It's been extremely informative. We have a much better picture of his ideas going forward and the progress that Ghana has made under the recent leadership. Particularly, I think, improvement in child mortality, in GDP growth, and so on. So I think there's been a very informative for many people here.
And the whole issue about collaboration is a key message. There is so much that we can share for sustaining the economic development of the continent. Collaboration. For me, that was a key message that came out. We can work together for the African continent.
I thought that President Mahamas was very impressive. He answered every question. I was quite satisfied. But I would have liked to have asked to have taken it a little bit further.
Chatham House, an international think tank, has hosted presidential candidates for the NPP in the 2008 election, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and former President John Kufuor in the past. For Joy News, Gifty Andowapia.
A 15-year-old candidate in the ongoing Basic Education Certificate examination who collapsed during Monday's English language paper is said to be doing fine. Rebecca Tinkrang, a student of the Timateng Early Primary School, was immediately rushed to the Asamankesi Government Hospital for treatment.
Rebecca collapsed at around 10 a.m. during the 12 examination centers by the Deputy Eastern Regional Minister. She was, however, discharged and was back at the center to continue with Tuesday's papers. The Deputy Eastern Regional Minister, Mavis Amafrempong, appealed to all candidates to refrain from examination malpractices, adding that her visit is meant to encourage them to have confidence in themselves and give off their best.
I'm just pleading with you that you don't send any foreign material to the exams room. Do not cheat. Don't communicate with any friend in the examination room. Because you know it and you can do it on your own. Do it, respect your invigilator.
Some of the candidates spoke to Joy News about their expectations.
As I have started seeing the questions, I think they are questions that they have taught us. So I think I'll pass. I have the confidence that I'll pass.
The examination is good for all the students, especially the basic students. And we are here with the hope to pass our BEC.
I have hope that all of us will pass our BEC, but the invigilators too, they are good to us. They are free to us, so that we hope that we pass our BEC.
A total of 35,552 candidates, 17,499 males, and 14,644 females are taking part in 72 examination centers in the various municipalities and districts of the Eastern region. Haruna Yusuf Mpeni's report for Joy News.
We're taking a break. We'll be back with more stories. Don't go away. Parliament today adopted an amendment to the $3 billion loan agreement between government and the China Development Bank. It was, however, after heated debate over the extent to which loans and agreements brought before the House are scrutinized.
The amendments became necessary to correct some defects and shortcomings with certain clauses which greatly disadvantaged the state. Under the previous agreement, for instance, government through the Bank of Ghana would have had to transfer 70% of the commercial value of each crude oil lifting from the Jubilee field. Ranking member of the Finance Committee, Dr. Akutose, however, drew the attention of Parliament to Article 181, which mandates the legislature to conduct due diligence on such loans to minimize some of the errors which tend to lead to judgment deaths.
Our law is very clear. You cannot take the money from the oil revenue and put it in an escrow account. Our law is very clear. So for the Chinese to give the impression that that is their interpretation, I find it very incredulous. But in practice, they are withholding disbursements. This is why we're cautioning that when you are negotiating with them, you have to be careful.
This led to exchanges between the finance minister and other members of the House.
Our Ghanaian experts got it right. It is the insistence of the international experts, including their local advisors, that is leading us into this situation. We drew their attention to the fact that you could not appropriate 70% of the ABFA to any debt service because of the provision.
But, Mr. Speaker, on the issue that is relating to, that we got it right, the Chinese got it wrong. If he is to be believed, why is it that noticing that they've gotten it wrong, we have gotten it right, we have to pay up to $295,000 for them, for something that they have done wrong? And that is not even counting the cost that the Ghanaian side would bear, would incur. That relates to the side of the Chinese, $295,000. Mr. Speaker, on parity of reasoning, if we also incurred $295,000, we're talking about something in the region of $600,000. We don't have the requisite support services. You know, as a fact, Mr. Speaker, that when you go to other legislatures, you have experts who advise committees. Sometimes the experts are even more knowledgeable than the members, than the members of the executive. That's the point I'm emphasizing. Yes. And the time has come for us to also look at that.
The Speaker then intervened and affirmed the MP's position on the matter.
I want you to get that point. He himself had a similar experience with a committee that I belonged to when he was the Attorney General. And he came back and told me a very interesting story that he have to suspend sleeping up to 3 a.m. to correct those. Meanwhile, those things pass through expert hands. So he's talking from experience and should just take it on board to improve upon our performance.
The adoption and subsequent passage of the facility should now pave the way for Ghana to access the $3 billion.
Now, the recent fire at the Makala No. 2 market here in Accra and the ongoing investigations have not only disrupted academic work for the about 300 pupils of the private school there, but clients of the Living Clinic. The most affected are the facility's tuberculosis patients, most of whom say they are afraid they might die from the condition, having had access to their medication disrupted for close to 2 weeks now due to the to the zoning of the area. Felix Akoyam caught up with one of the patients.
40-year-old Emmanuel Aiku Nunu recalls taking his last TB medication after the Makala No. 2 market caught fire.
Mama Rose, any doctor, no Mr. Crap, no. For this one, be inside you. Akokoji edu na ba mai. By police one, any security men no more no. Omuma obi ama phone call inside no. Sorry.
He has been denied access to the drugs, which for him is a lifeline.
Mama big to nama. Madam Rose na ko na juma no. Ye baby no. Ebe ha still na krapo haye. Oh, see na se akwa hayo. Na afi na mbeka so mbebie. No sure nipa bewu.
Emmanuel was diagnosed with TB in April this year. He told me the last few days without his medication have been hell on earth for him.
Me so da no pa. Me to me se me hunna mu nyina ye me ya. Me ti to me ye me ya pa. Ofanya agro me to me ye me ya ma. Na me we mu. Me ni mu nyina free so. Ti to me afi me na me num. Ay nyu. Ejane bi ando mi ko.
His mother, Agnes Tete shares her son's agony.
Misoma mi ba no se bia obewu. Misoma no se bia bibi ben. Timi esraban. Ene no krofon mo gate nanu. No mama kwana mi sanko kedonu en family na onu.
Officials at the chest department of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital says Emmanuel and his mother's fears are not misplaced.
Our drug, every day the patient has to take the drug. We don't even omit one day or even holidays. All the holidays, Saturdays and Sundays, the patient supposed to take his or her drugs. And when a patient hasn't taken the drug for 2 weeks, that means they are allowing the patient to become seriously sick, because the bacteria which we are trying to kill can multiply at any time. And for the past 2 weeks that the patient is not going to take the drug is very serious.
Emmanuel's ordeals represent the trials of other TB patients who take their medication from the living clinic.
The TB virus is getting more grounds in them, and they can even spread it to the environment because there are people who live within the community.
Officials at the chest department of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital wants authorities to grant access to the living clinic immediately.
The authorities should allow, even if it is one nurse, they should allow the nurse to go inside, collect the pin cards for the patient with their drugs, and then they can move. Without the pin card or our red card, they can't even hand over the patient to any other clinic.
For now, Emmanuel Ikununu is only hoping authorities grant him and other patients access to the clinic soon.
And there's help on the way. The Deputy Greater Accra Regional Minister Isaac Van der Pauw has directed security officials at the Makla No. 2 market to grant access to the Overcomers School Academy and operators of the Living Clinic on Wednesday. He announced this after a visit to the market.
Those who were affected by the fire too, a place has been created out there for them to start doing some business, if not temporarily at all.
Okay, so what we also know is that there is a school and a clinic, and these the authorities have not been allowed to operate. So what about them?
We have opened them. We've asked the authorities consent to open them from tomorrow.
Up next, we bring you business news. The Ghana Investment Promotion Center Bill 2013 was read a second time today. The bill seeks to revise the law relating to investment promotion and to establish the GIPC as a government agency responsible for the encouragement and promotion of investment and create a congenial environment for investment. Contained in the revised act are clauses, especially the exclusion of foreigners, and analysts say could trouble well-established foreign companies operating locally.
The economic and investment climate which existed when the GIPC Act, Act 478, was enacted has undergone major changes, making the Act obsolete. Recent developments such as the involvement of foreigners in small-scale mining has also highlighted the shortcomings in the Act, prompting a new policy focus. There is also an urgent need to provide incentives to attract and retain strategic investors, to make Ghana a competitive investment destination, and to also provide Ghanaians with opportunities to take advantage of the prevailing economic conditions. The bill attracted a lot of contributions from members of the House.
The motion made by the Minister of Trade with regards to certain amendments of the GIPC bill, as a Ghanaian, that is my true identity. And nobody can take that identity away from me. This House, Mr. Speaker, has a responsibility, the 6th Parliament, that come tomorrow, these amendments are making, we're going to stand the test of time.
Some members, in contributing to the issue on the floor, raised concerns about some of the clauses.
You want this enterprise to be technically driven, not politically driven. My colleague was mentioning this, that politicians and businessmen cannot be good bedfellows. I disagree. They must give policy direction.
Sitting continues tomorrow.
The Santahene is impressing on governments the need for a paradigm shift in its role in the job creation agenda. Otumfuo said to the second wants government to focus solely on establishing policies for job creation rather than directly creating the jobs. This, he believes, should empower the private sector to create the required jobs to also thrive as the engine of growth for the economy. He was speaking at the opening of the corporate headquarters of the Ekwafu Adamfo Marketing Company in Kumasi. The Ministry of Energy and Petroleum has signed a memorandum of understanding with General Electric to boost the country's power generating capacity. Under the MOU, GE will be facilitating the development, financing, and technical partnership required for the implementation of an incremental 1,000 megawatts of power in collaboration with government over a 5-year period.
The agreement is in line with government's objective to increase the country's generation capacity to 5,000 megawatts by 2016. The Minister of Energy and Petroleum, Emmanuel Amakofibua, commended GE and assured them of government's commitment to collaborate with private investors in the energy sector.
And on our part as government, we are going to work with them to cut through all the delays and the bureaucracies and make sure the processes of licensing, of reaching a power purchase agreement, getting a grid license and all of that is in place for us to make sure that that project comes on stream on time. So this MOU commit the two of us to work together to ensure that that project comes on stream.
The 1,000 megawatts project, which will introduce the power park concept, should lead to lower generation costs. GE's vice chairman expressed gratitude for the ministry's commitment and pledged to ensure prompt delivery.
Don't underestimate the importance of the work that the President, the Vice President, the Minister has done to establish this as a priority project. It makes it easier for companies like ours to line up, put the resources in, and provide real results.
How long is this project going to?
The Minister also explained how the project will be implemented.
The 1,000 megawatt will not come at once. It will be incremental. I think the idea is a 400, and another 200. And we are looking at just setting up a power pack where all of these projects will be there. But we are also going to work with them to explore other fuel options like CNG and LNG options, and also to make sure that that this whole project is fast-tracked.
In a related development, two agencies under the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, the Bulk Oil and Transportation Company Limited and the Volta Lake Transport Company Limited, have also signed MOUs in the storage and transport of petroleum products to the northern region. Under the terms, the Volta Lake Transport Company Limited is expected to operate and maintain the facilities for and on behalf of both to ensure transportation of bulk petroleum products from its depot at Akosombo to another at Buipe.
The National Petroleum Authority has announced plans to push for the complete removal of subsidies on all petroleum products. Government last month scrapped subsidies on petrol, diesel and LPG, but maintained it for kerosene, premix and residual fuel. But analysts are worried government might still step in to cushion consumers, a move which in the past caused government indebtedness to distributors of petroleum products to spiral to about $500 million. The NPA, however, says it is working to ensure consumers pay the full cost come the next review date on July 1. If the National Petroleum Authority secures government approval for this move, consumers should be paying for the real prices of petroleum products as and when they go up on the international market. We'll bring you smart investment tips next. Now, Mesvin Grand Hotel has apologized for the scuffle involving a member of its management and journalists covering a distress action by the Ghana Revenue Authority last week. The Daily Guide reports assaulted in the June 10 incident. Emilia Ening Abe has also since withdrawn the complaint lodged with the police.
The Mensvik officials explained their conduct on the day.
I was not angry. We were trying to prevent the media from entering into the room to cover what we were discussing, because it should be a discussion between we and the GRA, but not we and media. You understand? We don't have any problem with the media. We have problem with GAR, and then we're trying to sort that issue indoors. But to our surprise, whoever opened the door, a policeman chalked it for media to zoom what was going inside, which I thought it was not fair.
They nonetheless expressed regret.
We are sincerely very sorry for the acts on the 11th of June 2013. This one goes especially to Emilia with the Daily Guide. We are sincerely sorry to the GR, to our media partners, to our clients all over the world, including the police services, that business is like that. It's of its kind. It will come, it will go. But we want them to understand that we are partners in business. Whatever that happened, they should look over it and then come back to us to move forward to develop the country.
Emilia Ninabe confirmed she had accepted the company's apology.
The truth is that the owner of the hotel and the man who assaulted me, that's his brother, were here in my company, and I could see the remorse. I could see, and then he just said, "Oh, my sister, I'm sorry," and I could see that it was not intentional, as they have just said. So I decided that, well, I've pursued it enough. But on the other side, there was one part of me which said that no, you shouldn't let him go, because there's people who have done similar things to journalists and they are walking free. So that is why I called the police in to arrest him, even though he had come here to apologize. And then at the police station, he was told to report. He was arrested, his statement was taken, and then his brother came to bail him, and I thought I couldn't punish him enough.
The police say they will no longer pursue the case following the withdrawal of the complaint. Abigail Adumakwenchi for Joy News.
Next up, we bring you international news.
Sports is brought to you in association with
Smile, you've got Higo.
Right, time for the very latest in the world of sports. My name is George Adejunior. And Michael Essie's return to the Black Stars wouldn't be anytime soon after the midfielder announced he would confirm his availability after a meeting with the Ghana Football Association. The Chelsea ace asked to be excused from international football to concentrate on his club after returning from a 6-month injury layoff in 2011. It was anticipated Essie's return to the Stars would follow their Yu brothers and Kevin Prince Boateng. That would take a little bit longer, according to the player. We'll be bringing that video and that slot to you later on. Let's now talk about swag. And the Sports Writers Association of Ghana have months been brainstorming and have finally arrived at 2 teams to participate in this year's Sports Writers Association Cup. Bitter rivals Accra Hearts of Oak and Mediama SC are set to clash again this season on July 21.
Accra Hearts of Oak will play Mediama at the Accra Sports Stadium on July 21 in the SWAG Cup game. The game, which is organized yearly by the Sports Writers Association of Ghana, is expected to attract a high delegation, which includes the Minister of Youth and Sports, Elvis Afriyie Ankra. Last season's game was played between Kumasi Asante Kotoko and Brecum Chelsea in a 2-leg affair in which the Blues emerged victorious. But Joy Sports can confirm this year's game will be played just once. Mediama have become Accra Hearts of Oak's nemesis this season by eliminating them from the MTN FA Cup whilst in the league. They beat the Phobians in Accra and drew with them at the Takwa TNA Park. The Phobians were initially built to play Brecum Chelsea, but the Blues pulled out due to their pre-season plans in South Africa. Kotoko are record title holders of the SWAG Cup.
Right, so we can return to Michael Essie's story, and of course his return to the Black Stars will take a bit longer. Here is the player himself, Michael Essie.
Well, I can't play on my own, can I? I think at the right time I will announce my future with the Black Stars, but for now I'm just on holidays and I want to enjoy it. And if anything, I will let you know. Well, we just have to wait. Now I'm looking to have a meeting with the FA and if anything, I will announce anything if the outcome of the meeting. Well, they just came back from the international games. I will try and arrange that as soon as possible.
Why would you want to have a meeting with the FA before you respond to the coach's call? What exactly is the problem? Are there any issues?
Well, there's a lot to talk about, but that's between me and the FA.
You wouldn't want to tell us what these things are?
Right, that'll be all for sports tonight. My name is George Adejunior. Do have a good night. Israel will join us with Showbiz.
Sports was...
Now, Showbiz award-winning reggae artist and radio presenter Black Rasta has written a letter to Charterhouse, organizers of the Ghana Music Awards, to register his disagreement with making reggae or putting reggae and dancehall music into one category. He has therefore pleaded with Charterhouse to separate the two genres into different categories, as there are many, as he says, there are many reggae artists who do not have dancehall tunes to their credit. Here are excerpts of the letter. And for the full version of the letter, tune in to the Showbiz Review on Saturday at 8:30 p.m. with Gladys Redu. Now, how much would you pay to own the used poopy diapers produced by the buttocks of Kim Kardashian and Kanye West's love child? Well, hardcore porn star Leslie Gold believes there could be potential gold mines. Leslie Gold, a bona fide expert in selling other people's crap, says anybody interested should start heaping their finances. Right, before we bring you the closing headlines, we're going to our Facebook wall and to the question I posed today. And sorry, I didn't post the story as the question as early enough. Now, following last week's Supreme Court ruling regarding Martin Amidu, getting government to be awarded $47 million it didn't work for and wasn't expecting, what do you suggest the cash be used for? And these are the some of the answers I'm getting. Francis Tuvo says used to build schools and hospitals all named after Hero Amidu. Somebody says Nathaniel Amako says we should be used to buy more and confirm. Nathaniel Amako says I want them to buy. Okay. Abdul Wahab Karantao says building of infrastructure. Che Anthony says build a classical hospital and name it after the citizen vigilante Mr. Martin A.B.K. Amidu. And Nana Safu Baumia Ganes, are you sure the cash will even be used judiciously? Maybe let's build a hospital and name it after him. So a lot of people are suggesting we should build a hospital. Somebody also says Luis Nana Ufurikwa says we should use it as a retirement package for Nanado. Okay. Now, some of you viewers can be very, very interesting. But you can keep your comments coming in. Right now, though, let's cross over to the PM Express studio and to Nana and Pauw. Good evening to you, Nana. What's coming up in PM Express tonight? Hello, good evening, Nana. What's coming up on PM Express tonight?
Well, tonight we are talking about the fact that we have all been hypocrites. I mean, how many times have you been stopped by a police and you dish out 5 cities or 10 cities because you can't be afford to waste your time and go through all these unnecessary protocols? Yet still we sit amongst our friends and, argue till we're blue and black in the face that the government is corrupt and things have to change. Israel, we're all guilty. And that's what we're talking about today, corruption.
All right, thank you very much. So you stay tuned to tune into PM Express, which comes up right after this bulletin for the show. Before I go, a quick run through our top stories. The Chinese government is appealing for more compassionate treatment of its nationals found engaged in illegal mining. Meanwhile, the Ghana Immigration Service says some 269 foreigners have so far been repatriated in the ongoing crackdown